Transfusion Administration Report, also known as TAR, is utilized to capture and document the transfusion of all blood products being administered. You will still need to present the transfusion request form when you go to the blood bank. However, the product will be issued without the carbon slips, as all of the information is captured with TAR. So therefore, blood bank will not be issuing the blood transfusion slips anymore. TAR replaces the manual paper process for both issuing blood products and capturing the report data on the lab side. Blood consent will still be obtained on paper, and this consent is good for the length of the hospital visit unless the provider requests another consent is obtained. Setup and infusing of the products remains the same. This is focusing on the Meditech piece. The only exception to TAR is MTP, Massive Transfusion Protocol, and the CVOR, in which the current processes remains unchanged. Product readiness will be able to be viewed in Meditech without having to call the lab. The status will change to ready at the bottom of the detailed panel view on the status board when the blood bank has received the order and done their part. It will change to issued when the product has been picked up from blood bank, and it will change to transfusing after it is started on the TAR, and then transfused after it has been completed. You can then click on Go to TAR from there, and it will launch you into that field. If you're within the patient's record, you can click on the TAR tab within the chart. To begin a new transfusion, click Doc Vitals. Vital signs must be documented prior to verify routine. The policy for the vital sign intervals has not changed. You must document the pre-transfusion set of vitals. Choose Save and Exit. Highlight the product type and select Verify on the footer button. You will still verify with another nurse at the bedside. You will scan the barcodes off of the blood products in the order listed in the scan checklist box. First, you will scan the patient wristband, then the blood bank wristband, the product unit number, product blood type, expiration date and time. Then you will check off all items in the Verify checklist box. Click Verify and begin. A co-sign box will then appear. The nurse that is co-signing your blood administration will then put in his or her 4-digit PIN number. If you have forgotten your PIN number, at the end of the presentation, there are directions on how to reset your PIN. Doc Intake on the footer button displays. Click Doc Intake. This takes you to the transfusion intake flow sheet. The container volume of the scanned product automatically displays. Document the initial transfusion rate at the beginning of the transfusion. After documenting the initial transfusion rate, the next line is for what the transfusion rate would be for the remainder of the transfusion. The documented IV site can be pulled from previous documentation and entered. If a new IV needs to be documented, this can be done right here in this flow sheet. After that documentation has been filed, the TAR then displays that the product is in transfusing status. To document if there was a reaction, you would choose Doc Reaction from the footer button to access the Transfusion Reaction Intervention screen. This will then launch you into the Transfusion Reaction flow sheet. Complete the documentation. Blood bank is automatically notified when transfusion reaction symptoms query is documented on, and this will auto-trigger to the lab with data. Physical return of the blood and tubing will still need to be taken to the lab. TAR then displays a reaction icon under the product. Click Hold Footer on the footer button to temporarily stop the transfusion. Click End on the footer button to complete the transfusion. The transfusion start and stop time and total volume will auto-populate in the intake and output flow sheet like it currently does, mimicking the IV flow sheet. The transfusion start and stop time and total volume will auto-populate in the intake and output flow sheet like it currently does, mimicking the IV flow sheet. Authentication with user PIN is required to cosign for the blood. The cosigner is an LPN or an RN. If you have forgotten or forget your PIN, you can change your user's PIN yourself anytime in Meditech by selecting the Change Your User's PIN. You will then enter the password you use to log onto the computer, hit Enter, then choose a 4-digit PIN. Enter that twice and it will save and say your new PIN has been filed.